Baroness Hale, who for years was the only female judge in the Supreme Court, has a long history of self-identifying publicly as a feminist. Now she's repeated views that her experiences as a woman and a mother inform the perspective that leads her to her often brilliant judgments. Having women on the court, she says, improves the quality of decision-making. There's so much evidence that diversity does improve decision-making, not because one gender or race is better than another, but because a mix of perspectives creates more sophisticated thinking. The only difference between Hale and her male colleagues is that they don't admit how their gender affects their perspective, while she is transparent about how being female affects hers. If you need a reminder of why unchecked testosterone is bad for our institutions, just look at the allegations, all of which are denied, against US Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. We need both more women and more feminists in courts, which, among other things, have the power to make huge decisions about women's bodies. Hale is paving the way, and that should make us proud.
Afua, you and I have talked with each other down the years, and I understand you have legal training. What is your legal training?
What's my legal training?
Yeah.
I used to be a barrister.
Right, you used to be a barrister. You have at least said that Brett Kavanaugh denies all the charges. You'll be aware the allegations which he denies were done when he was at high school, before he even became a judge. So what on earth has that got to do with it?
Why do I think it's relevant that
He was allegedly aged between 15 and 23.
The
What's it got
reason
to do with
that's
being a
relevant
judge?
is because, and it's important to say that the judicial appointment process in the US is very different from here.
Mind that.
Because he is facing hearings that take apart every element of his character and his career. If you put yourself forward for the highest office in the land constitutionally,
have you decided he's guilty?
hold yourself out to a higher level of scrutiny.
Have you decided he's guilty?
No, of course not. That's why I support him having a hearing.
Your argument, which had some validity to it, although I don't know necessarily, because, as you said, you're a man, you're not going to make a great decision, you've absolutely destroyed your argument by impugning the name of a man who's not even been found guilty.
I'm not impugning him.
If anything happened, he was a kid. It's got nothing to do with it. Why are you making the link with him being a judge? It's nothing to do with it. He was a kid.
You're fine. The reason that we're seeing the women who are accusing him giving evidence before the Senate committee is because it is seen as highly relevant to his judicial appointment.
He was at high school.
I know he was at high school, but he has... Have you watched his nomination hearing?
Not all of it. I watched some of it.
He has held himself out in a very specific way as a paragon of virtue, family values and Christianity.
On Brett Kavanaugh.
If you hold yourself out as one thing and there's evidence that you've behaved in a different way, I think that deserves to be scrutinised, not by...
I think we're straining a little bit.
I thought you were going to ask me about how my presence helps improve the sophistication of pledged thinking, Nick. What a wasted opportunity.
Right, I think we've strayed a little bit, and I'm actually going to do something I never thought I'd ever do.
Go on.
And I'm going to back you up slightly here, right? OK? First time ever. Right? OK? Hold the front pages. It's coming out in a minute, all right? OK? Right, I do. When I was a kid, right, and I do respect that women should be given the same opportunity within the legal system. And I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, I was about, 15 years old, I was in the children's home, and I got done for a little fight downtown, and I had to go in front of the beak, all right? So I gets hauled in, all right? I gets charged, I get sent back to the children's home, and then I'm looking forward to going to court, right? And all the other kids are going, whoa, if you get that woman, you're in for it, boy. You're going to get some, do you know what I mean?
What,
so the female judge. If you got the female, you was in trouble. You was in big trouble, do you know what I mean? Because the female, she was evil. She was going to do you big time, like, do you know what I mean? She was hatred-filled with it. So actually, females in the legal system, fair play to them. Well done, they do a good job. You know? They put the fear of God through me, I can tell you.
Yeah, but you carried on offending.
Yeah, I never really. I saw it myself. I think
Phil makes a good point that we shouldn't assume that female judges will
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say that actually if more women were involved in conflict resolution, things wouldn't lead to violence as they so often do, especially with men declaring war on each other.
I think that the evidence about that is quite patchy. I mean, I think women have the same right as everyone else to be violent and aggressive and non-peacemaking.
But the point is, 90% of violent crime.
And the point is that women have a range of perspectives.
Yes.
They have a range of perspectives, and they're sometimes different.
I'd like to make a point, which is that I think you are wrong to distinguish women, men and feminists. I think a lot of men are feminists, and not necessarily, you know, and there are some very feminist men in the legal profession. Having said that, I think Baroness Hale's point is right. There are many more pale, stale male people in the legal profession than Hale. Get it? See what I did?
Very clever, Rachel. I would like to point out that there are no senior male judges, as far as I'm aware, who have publicly self-identified as feminists.
Oh, well, come on, self-identified
Well,
feminists.
how do we know?
you were about to
How do
say
we know if they're
self-identified
feminists?
women.
How do we know if they're feminists if they've never said
That's the
they are?
next
Do
topic.
they have to say it as a man and a feminist?
But since we're anti-thought police, we don't want to assume that any of them are feminists if they've never said it. The point
I'd
is,
like to
it's
raise-
not a coincidence that the only person who said they're a feminist is
Can
the
we
woman.
have a stat on women's actual penetration into the legal profession on screen, please? Which is that the women make up 55% of magistrates, 29% of court judges. Not bad. 46% of tribunal judges, and only 24 judges in the Court of Appeal. And obviously there are only a couple in the Supreme Court. So I've got a question for Nick. Nick, how would you like it if just get rid of all the men and just simply have all female courts?
I don't think that would be helpful at all.
Why not?
But I'm agreeing that women... There
Why
should
wouldn't
be
it be
female...
helpful? Because women are better at resolution, very good at empathetic judgments. We take everything into account.
Just as it shouldn't all be male, and it shouldn't all be white, and it shouldn't all be female, and it shouldn't all be mixed race. It shouldn't be
Diversity.
that.
Nick
but if you went,
loves diversity.
if you, I do.
But sorry, Nick, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. Wouldn't it be even better if all courts looked a bit more like this? Look, all the female panelists as High Court judges.
Oh no!
And who's in the dock? Oh, there's Nick Ferrari, and with Judge Madge,
Counsel Madge.
Counsel Madge, which,
there you go.
and who's the bodyguard with Nick?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
I think
bodyguard. Keep him where he should be.
I think it's Big Phil.
Where's Wendy? That's what I want to know. If you won't listen,
I
if
don't
you
know if I
won't
need
listen
to
to
win.
me,
I've got grey
You
hair
weren't
already.
shocked at all.
if you won't listen to me, pledges, perhaps you'll listen to Anne Widdecombe, writing in the Radio Times.
Unlikely.
And I want to put this to you, Afua, then Rachel. Anne Widdecombe says, and I quote, "Women have never had it so good. We have a woman Prime Minister again and a woman in charge of the Met Police. We have women chief executives, women judges, women running media. Here a woman, there a woman. Everywhere a bleat bleat. It's the age of the whine and the whinge, of the moan and the groan."
Proof that women have just as much a right as everyone else to be bigoted and
I don't get
and
what's
short-sighted.
being debated here. I don't get, because you're not saying that you don't think women should be in.
No, I'm not.
And you're saying the same thing. What's the dispute?
Yes,
I
we
don't
all
get
agree,
it. Yeah.
basically.
What's the debate
wonderful.
here?
I mean, I'm saying that I think we need to recognise that it is important to have women, not just at the junior level, which we saw there's better representation, but at the senior level. I mean, there are no people of ethnic minority heritage in the Supreme Court at all. There's one Court of Appeal
US
judge.
But how are you going to do it?
In this country.
How do you intend to do it?
Well, it's interesting when you look at the actual demographics of the legal profession where judges come from, because now there is a lot more diversity. So the question is, why are women, why are people from minority backgrounds not progressing to senior levels of the
Would you
judiciary?
have positive discrimination and quotas
See, now there's a
in the
debate.
legal profession?
I think that sometimes treating everyone the same does not result in equal treatment.
Yeah, but then
You
you
didn't
focus.
answer Rachel's question.
No, I mean, so
You do
sometimes
agree.
you do need
You
to
need-
treat people
you could
differently
need
to
them a
create
leg
fair
up.
outcomes.
Well,
Yeah, I think
I'd
so.
say focus on opportunity as opposed to outcome, because the danger there, of course, is it can lead to unqualified people.
Well, we
filling
know
quotas.
exactly the danger because we've
Yeah.
been seeing for the last few hundred years interventions in favour of white men in the judiciary. That's why they have been the
No, but
entirety
all
of
I'm saying
judges.
is if you put in a quota
Walk me
system
through
as
those
America has...
Interventions is not the right word. It's
Yeah.
with the
You mean
status quo has
biases.
been that men have just
Yeah.
simply walked into the positions of
it's not
power.
intervention.
Intervention, I mean, until a few years ago, to get a judicial appointment was literally a tap on the shoulder from the Lord Chancellor.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
If
No,
that's
but
not an intervention, I don't know what it
that's
is.
still,
Okay, I'm
that's still
gonna give up
I
for that.
imagine, to be charitable to what you've just said. You're saying that there's an unconscious bias at play which needs to be addressed, which I agree with. I'm not so sure quotas are the best way to address it.
I'm not
bias.
saying that I'm
It's-
sure quotas are
Yeah.
either, but I'm saying that the status quo has not been
course it
satisfactory,
hasn't.
and we've been putting up with
Yeah.
it for too
I'd
long.
be-
And I really welcome seeing someone at a senior level now saying that we need to be a bit more radical in thinking about the consequences of not having society reflected in the judiciary, because it does make a difference. As Phil said, had he not had that woman in court, he might have gone down a
Could have
completely
gone down a
different path.
sticky road. It was beckoning, I can tell you.
Right, well, I am judge and jury, and I think I'll rule a mistrial on that. You're watching The Pledge on Sky News. Coming up, I promise that I will do my best to be true to myself and develop my beliefs to be fearless and controversial and keep the pledge law.